The Balanced Breakover Management ruler is designed to find balance, palmar distal balance or front to back balance in a horse's foot. It accomplishes several things, the method of it does. The ruler itself is just a plastic ruler. It has a center hole. This goes over center of rotation, and I'll show you how to find that on the bottom of the foot. And then it's measured off in millimeters in 10 degrees increments, 80 on each side. And basically, what I do is, part of the method is finding center of rotation on a horse's foot. This accomplishes a couple things. First of all, it finds their center, but also it lets the user, you can look at a foot like this and you can think, well, that foot might be very balanced. The relationship between the toe and the heels and the frog all look very balanced until you get your fingers on it. And when you do, when you actually get your fingers onto the foot itself, it represents it in a very different way. So what I do is I put one finger behind the cornet band like that, and I take an opposing, my thumb or opposing finger. I might, sometimes on a big foot, I'll just even go down like that, try to find my other finger, but I just grab it like this. And when I do that, I'll come right through this joint like this right here. And what I do is I mark that spot. And then I'll go right back here to the central sulcus of the frog where it goes right into the hairband right there. And I take that measurement. So I'll just put that on there like that, and I take that measurement. And on this horse it's going to be 60 millimeters, which is pretty normal for a standard size horse. When I go forward, then I would go up to 60 here and I'd make a mark right there. That's going to tell me where the tip of P3 is. So here's that center spot, here's where I went to, and then here's tip of P3. Now this is a dried specimen. Dried specimens aren't as accurate as live, of course, but it gives you a good representation of where that is. Here's an x-ray that I did as well. This is an x-ray that I found the center spot, I marked it, then I went back. Here's the central sulcus of the frog. I measured that, and then I took that measurement and brought it up, and it brought me right underneath the tip of P3. Now this thing's pretty accurate on several, I've measured several radiographs to feet and probably have at least 50 or more documented right now, and I'm with 2 to 5 millimeters from the radiograph to the foot. So that's a pretty accurate way to find a landmark on the foot and find center of rotation. Now this here is great because when you're doing radiographs, you can find that center spot, and then you can put that into a prescription, or we can figure out what's going on with this horse's foot. The way this works too is if you are taking this from on a horse's radiograph, you find center of rotation, which is in the distal part of P2 right here, and you draw a line down that is at a 90-degree axis to the palmar angle of the bone, not to the ground. The industry wants to go to the ground all the time, but really it's 90 degrees to the palmar angle of the bone there. So it's going to come back like that a little bit. If this palmar angle was up higher, it would be back in here like this. If it was lower, if it was 0, it'd be straight to the ground, or it could be like this. But that's going to give you an accurate landmark where this foot is right here. And from there, I can measure breakover distance. I can tell if it's too long in front of the bone. If I'm doing therapeutic shoeing, do I want to make if I'm putting a shoe on, do I want to put my breakover behind that a little bit? So it's a very useful tool. I'll show you on a horse. This is a goniometer. This is my goniometer. It's pretty dirty because I use it every day for something, so it's constantly under use, and it shows it. Anyway, it's a straight goniometer. It reads in 5-degree increments down here. It also has my ruler attached into it right there. This is the ruler here, and I did put it in here in case you want to use it like that as well. You can figure palmar distal balance on a horse's foot. The reason for this is to read the hoof pastern axis of a horse's foot. And there's not a lot of literature about that, but it's a very important thing because the foot itself, when it's resting, it's in a different position than when it's loaded. And the reason for that is to take strain and equilibrium in the foot between the tendons. So on most feet, a horse will stand with a rested axis of this from P1 here to P3 down in here, or the dorsal face of the hoof here at about 10 degrees. That's for a foot that's about 50 to 55 degrees. If a foot is over 55 degrees, it'll usually have a stance there of about 5 degrees, a minus 5 degrees. So, and I say minus because minus would be broken back. That would be slightly broken back a little bit. Broken forward would be a positive angle like that, like a club foot. Now the reason the higher angle foot is it's got less movement is because it's got more pressure through the deep flexor tendon or more contraction through the deep flexor tendon, so it's equilibrialized more through the superficial flexors, the superficial flexor and the suspensory ligaments. To use this, what I usually do, and we'll show you here on a horse pretty soon how I do this, but this foot here I would measure him unloaded and then loaded, and then I would take the sweep he would have. So let's say this horse has 10 degree sweep. He's kind of a low angled horse, and so I know he has 10 degrees, so I can measure him right now, and I take a line, a perpendicular line off the dorsal face of P1 right in there, and this thing says minus 15 degrees. So a normal horse would be minus 10. He's minus 15. That's an extra 5 degrees. How do I change that 5 degrees? Well, the formula is every 2 on the bottom, every 2 degree change on this bottom will move this 5 degrees. So, and that's how I know. So if a horse is off, if he's off that much, if he's off 10 on this, that's 4, so on and so forth. So that's how you use it, and it's very simple. It's very effective. It's a good reference. It's good for prescriptions. It's good for telling a client where their horse is at. It's good for a horse owner to know how their horse is standing. Sometimes you can't see these, you can't really visualize these angles without measuring them. We sell the goniometer and the ruler together in a package with a book full of instructions. You can buy this, order this off the website. Or you can order the ruler by itself or the goniometer by itself, but to get the full instructions you need to buy the complete package.